This is Berk, son. It was the home of your grandparents and their grandparents before them. But out there, beyond the edge of the world, lies the home of the dragons. And I believe it's your destiny to one day find this hidden world.
So first of all, congratulations. The final film. I'm going to ask you two to just sort of maybe one of you tell us where we left off with the last film and where this film picks up.
Well, in the last film, we left off with Hiccup becoming chief.
Yes.
Because Stoic is gone. And Valka coming to be in Berk as, you know, with Hiccup and us having a lot of new dragons that we rescued, and then when we pick up in the third movie, Berk is just overrun with just hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't know.
It's a bit of a disaster, a bit of a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
So it starts out like with a bang.
Yeah, a funny bang.
A lot of bangs, actually.
Really?
Actually, yeah, multiple bangs.
Okay. And I know for you, since the first film, I mean, sort of going into the hidden world, it's a whole new world to explore. So what can fans expect in terms of like visually, how's this going to be different from anything we've seen?
Well, we've seen caves in the previous
Yeah.
movies, and even a really elaborate, beautiful greenhouse-like cavern that was Valka's lair, where the Bewilderbeast lived in the second movie. So we knew we had to do something different, and part of the goal is to take this movie where Cressida Cowell's books ultimately go, which is the explanation of where the dragons went, why they are not here anymore. And if the dragons were going to go away, we wanted to give them a place that was really magical, really amazing, that you could dream to visit one day. So the concept was to take bioluminescence and to take the idea of coral, which might be grown in midair in this very sort of saturated, salty, wet atmosphere.
Yeah.
And to create an endless tunnel of caverns and an endless maze of caverns and tunnels that would travel the globe, you know, beneath the oceans, beneath the continents, a world unto itself where the dragons would originate from and go back to.
Wow. When I think of a hidden world, like I immediately go to like if I could imagine a hidden world. So for either of you, if you had a hidden world, what would it look like? If you could create your own hidden world.
A great deal like my basement currently. Really? Yeah, that's my hidden world. That's,
What does that look like?
It's a bunch of like Habs memorabilia and a bunch of swords and Christmas lights and movie posters and.
Sounds like a man cave.
I mean, it's your word, not mine. Yes, it is my hidden world.
Yes. What about you, Rebecca?
My hidden world would just be like lots of beds everywhere.
Beds.
Yes.
Lots of
where
sleep.
I could just like roll from one sleepy position to another sleepy
mom.
position.
That makes sense.
Yes, because I'm a new mom and all I dream about is sleeping. So that is how that works.
Yeah. And I mean, this has been almost 10 years since the first one.
Since the first one came out, but
Yeah.
12 years since
Yeah,
we
it's
started making the first one.
So how have the characters or has the experience changed or affected either of you? Have you taken anything away from the characters? Have they infused their way into your own self?
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
You know, I've never played any character for as long as I've played Hiccup, and and there's times where it's hard for me to see where he starts and I end, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
And you know, like we said, we started 12 years ago, and by sheer virtue of that passage of time, I'm older than I was when we started, and the biggest takeaway for me is like what a blessing it is to play such a minor role in something as special as this. You know, I feel like I've gotten to tag along on these movies for 10 years, and it's been an adventure.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Jay and I always talk about how we go see the films like we're fans because we're in a booth. You know,
Right.
Dean does a beautiful job of trying to paint the picture of what's happening,
Yeah.
but mostly it's in our imaginations and we're not even together. So we record over the years, and then when we sit down to watch these stunning masterpieces, it's for the first time, really. And I mean, I'm so grateful to have been on this journey, and it's been just amazing to watch each film evolve and grow and still be a part of the same journey, but each film sort of be its own standalone amazing adventure. And I credit Dean with holding that heart of the movie that's never wavered.
Do you remember the very first line that you ever said in your character, or do you remember the last line that you uttered, and what was that last moment like where it was the last one and you weren't going to be in the character anymore?
Likely the last line was some sort of bit of effort or something, because they're constantly realizing that I haven't made enough exertion sounds, seems to be the thing. And so likely the last day, which was just like, it was probably made of, getting stuff that we needed and that we didn't get out yet. And so most likely my last line was something like, or something like that, probably.
In fact, it was a line we recorded in Toronto, because we flew up to show the movie to Jay, and it was unfinished. We booked a movie theater, and then we snuck off to this little room where they do radio podcasts. And I had a handheld recorder.
That's right.
And so he had to say the line, "Look, I'll figure it out. I just need more time."
That's right.
Wow, there you go.
That's right.
There you go. So Dean knows. There you go. You remember that. That's amazing. Do you know what yours was?
I remember that my very first Astrid recording session was just a series of like grunting and screaming and like Astrid didn't have lines so much in the beginning as just like she was just someone who kind of went rah, like, and I'm glad it's evolved since then.
Right.
I think that was even before Dean was on the project.
Yeah.
So I know, Dean, that you've infused some little, tiny little details into the film. There's a flux capacitor. I think it was in the first one, which I don't know if that's true or not. I know those are fan theories.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
I'm wondering where that would be.
It was on a wall. It was a drawing on a wall. So maybe it wasn't.
Oh, okay. One of Jay's forward-thinking drawings.
But
He was really forward-thinking.
But I'm wondering if you put any little Easter eggs in this film, or if there's any little details that fans should look out for.
Well, one of the Easter eggs that we put in is in the hidden world. Drago's defeated Bewilderbeast because we're trying to weave this narrative that all dragons are ultimately redeemable and good, and in the hands of bad people do bad things. So we had the Bewilderbeast with his broken tusk as part of the celebrating masses that are heralding
That's really cool.
Toothless's arrival.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, me neither.
And we also wanted to make sure that people didn't confuse Toothless being the last of his kind with the Light Fury. So we see other Light Furies in the hidden world as well, as just to help the audience along with that idea.
And what's with the Star Wars, the Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi thing? Is that a thing?
Really what that has to do is, with the movie, is just, for me, that was the trilogy that cemented my love of movies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Particularly the way we went from A New Hope to The Empire Strikes Back, because it was everything I loved about the first movie expanded upon. And so
And they've aged as well. You like the first time you see Luke.
Exactly, he was growing up.
Yeah, he's growing up, and he's wearing this cool gear, which I know is inspiration for Hiccup's gear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's that lightsabery type thing that Hiccup has.
Yes. So, yeah, there's so many inspirations that have found their way into the How to Train Your Dragon universe. But overall, the idea of a trilogy, telling a story in 3 acts over 3 installments, was inspired by that initial Star Wars trilogy as
And I know
well.
you've talked about how the first 2 films ended, and it was a risky choice you've made, the sort of certain ways you ended the film. Do you think this is risky? How many boxes of tissues do fans need to bring for this? Is it ugly crying? Am I going to ugly cry, or is it going to be like a good cry, like a kind of cry?
I ugly cried.
You did?
But it's hard for me to know if it was like, there was obviously what's happening in the story, but also it was dawning on me that like this was the end of like our era, our journey with the movie. And so I feel like my ugly cries might have been a little personal.
Right.
I don't think there's such a thing as an ugly cry, unless your tear ducts are
Oh,
mad.
there is such a thing as ugly crying.
Trust me.
We didn't quite squeeze a tear out of Jay because right as the climax hit, the projection shut down in the movie theater.
Oh, really?
So it couldn't have been timed more horribly.
I had a great experience. I cried right at the right moment and then couldn't turn it off.
Oh, wow.
Turn
That's
the
the best, though.
waterworks
And
off.
lastly, why should people go see this on the big screen? Why does this demand to be seen in a movie theater?
Because this is why you go to the movies. This is a big escapist story. You get immersed in a completely different world. You will have your imagination hijacked. Our 3D, our flying is still the best in the world. And so it's one of those experiences that like, I won't say anything's lost at home, but movies like this are why we go to the cinemas.
Yeah. And if you've seen any of the other two films and you have loved any or all of these characters, it's so rewarding to watch them sort of grow up and also step into new, aspects of themselves and of their life. And it's like tying up, something with old friends. You really do feel like you get a sense of who they've become based on where they started.
We've been at this for 10 years. So the technology has evolved every year, and what we've managed to put on screen is finally the fulfillment of the ambition that we had from the beginning. The scope, the scale, the detail. I mean, it's amazing. You see every grain of sand, every wisp of cloud, and every reflection on the water. So to see it on a big screen is quite overwhelming because it has such a visceral, kinetic effect on the audience. And it's great to be in a group of people when they're feeling the emotional pivots as well. So if you're going to cry, you might as well cry with a group of people.
And what's the fact that, like, in the first film, you could only see so many dragons in one shot?
Yeah, well, I think we could put 8 characters, human or dragon, on screen, and if you tried to put a 9th in, it would just crash the system.
Oh my God! And then there's a scene with literally thousands of dragons.
Yeah, there's the scene where Hiccup and Astrid are flying through the fireworms. I think we have something like 14,000 of them on screen.
Are you serious?
At the same time.
Wow.
Good Lord.
Oh my God.
Versus 7 or 8, the thing would crash.
Come along
To reboot after 9 characters.
Wow.